1 minute ago, Britain crossed the line from political crisis to full-blown collapse. The government has fallen, King Charles is cornered, and millions of Britons are demanding that new elections be called immediately. This is not a drill. This is the moment Britain has feared for months. The constitutional nightmare everyone said could never happen. Right now, the fate of British democracy hangs in the balance, and the monarchy itself is being dragged into the storm. What happens in the next few hours will decide whether the king emerges as a defender of the people or becomes the most controversial monarch in centuries. It all started with a wave of public anger that quickly turned into a tidal wave. The government's approval ratings had been sinking for weeks, but no one in Westminster expected what came next. When the official petition calling for immediate general elections hit Parliament's website, it spread like wildfire. Within hours, hundreds of thousands had signed. Within days, millions had joined. By the end of the second week, the petition had smashed every political record in modern British history, crossing the 5 million mark and still climbing. This wasn't just politics as usual. This was a full-scale rebellion of the people against the political establishment. Downing Street went into lockdown mode. Emergency meetings were being held every few hours. Ministers were reportedly clashing behind closed doors over how to respond. Some advisors warned that ignoring the demand would only pour fuel on the fire. Others insisted that giving in would make the government look weak and reward what they called mob rule. But as the days passed, the pressure became unbearable. Protests erupted in London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Glasgow. Crowds outside Westminster swelled to sizes not seen since the Brexit marches. Chants for elections now echoed through the streets. Then came the breaking point. A dramatic no-confidence vote in Parliament ended in disaster for the Prime Minister. The government officially lost its majority, and the administration collapsed in real time. The resignation that should have followed never came. Instead, the Prime Minister stunned the nation by refusing to step down. He claimed the movement was a manufactured crisis, fueled by social media hysteria, and insisted he still had the right to govern. That decision turned a political crisis into a constitutional one. Parliament was paralysed. The government had no authority but refused to quit. The entire system was frozen, leaving one man, King Charles, in an impossible position. For the first time in decades, Buckingham Palace found itself at the very centre of British politics. Crowds began gathering outside the palace gates, holding signs demanding that the king step in. Some of them carried messages like, "Charles, save our democracy," while others warned, "History will remember your silence." Social media exploded with hashtags calling on the king to dissolve Parliament and restore order. Overnight, the monarchy went from being a neutral symbol of stability to the last institution standing between chaos and order. Inside the palace, tension is said to be at an all-time high. Advisors are reportedly divided over what Charles should do next. Some say he has no choice but to act, even if it means breaking centuries of royal neutrality. Others warn that stepping into politics could shatter the monarchy's image forever. Charles is said to be spending hours in private deliberation, consulting with constitutional experts, senior judges, and even former prime ministers. But time is running out. Every hour that passes without action only fuels the anger of the people. And now the calls for a nationwide general strike are growing louder. Meanwhile, Britain's economy is reeling from the fallout. The pound has plunged to its lowest level in years. Billions have been wiped off the stock market. Businesses are warning that the uncertainty is destroying investor confidence. International leaders are starting to intervene. Reports say European officials have urged Britain to restore democratic stability immediately, and Washington has quietly delivered a message of its own, warning of the potential risks if Britain remains leaderless in a moment of global tension. All of this has left King Charles trapped in a decision that could define not just his reign, but the future of the monarchy itself. If he dissolves Parliament and forces an election, critics will accuse him. Across the country, the movement has transformed from protests into what analysts are now calling the largest civic mobilisation in modern British history. What began as angry posts online has turned into a full-blown national uprising. Families are leaving their homes to march together in cities and towns that have rarely seen political demonstrations. Retirees are waving placards outside council offices. Nurses, teachers, railway workers, and even small business owners are uniting behind a single demand: dissolve Parliament and give the people their vote. TikTok videos of these protests are going viral by the hour, gaining millions of views and turning ordinary citizens into overnight influencers. Instagram is flooded with images of packed city squares, and Twitter or X is ablaze with hashtags like #electionsnow and #KingChoose. The message is clear: the people are done waiting. The scale of this movement is staggering. Intelligence briefings reportedly warn that nearly 10 million people are preparing to take part in coordinated demonstrations if no elections are. If Charles remains silent during that strike, protesters say, they will escalate their actions until the monarchy itself is forced to take a stand. The clock is ticking, and Britain is running out of time. As Democracy Day approaches, the country feels like it's holding its breath. London is bracing for the largest protest since World War II, with estimates suggesting millions could flood the streets at the same time. Police chiefs are warning that they may not have enough manpower to control the crowds if the situation escalates. Intelligence reports leaked to the press suggest that extremist groups may try to exploit the chaos, infiltrating peaceful demonstrations to spark riots or clashes with police. One violent incident, analysts warn, could send the crisis spiralling completely out of control, triggering a chain reaction that would force the state to respond with emergency powers, a move that could shatter what remains of public trust. Britain is teetering on the edge of history, and everyone knows it. Inside Buckingham Palace, King Charles is said to be pacing the halls late into the night, reviewing briefing papers and reading letters from citizens. Some reports claim he has personally called foreign leaders, seeking advice on how to proceed. Palace insiders describe him as visibly shaken, aware that whatever he does next could define the monarchy for generations. For Charles, this is the moment he has spent his entire life preparing for. And yet, it is a moment no monarch has faced in nearly 2 centuries. If he acts, he risks unleashing accusations of royal overreach and plunging Britain into a constitutional showdown with Parliament. If he does nothing, he risks being remembered as the king who stood by and watched as democracy collapsed. The pressure is now global. In Brussels, EU officials are openly warning that continued instability in Britain could threaten European security. In Washington, senior White House advisors have reportedly urged Britain to respect the democratic process, diplomatic language that some are interpreting as a demand for elections. Even the Commonwealth is watching closely, with leaders in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand reportedly worried that the monarchy's credibility could be damaged worldwide if Charles appears powerless. The stakes are no longer just about the UK. They are about the reputation of Britain as a democracy and as a constitutional monarchy on the world stage. As the hours tick down to Democracy Day, the sense of urgency is electric. Protest organisers have promised that the strike will be peaceful but massive, with transport networks, schools, hospitals, and even government offices expected to grind to a halt. Economists warn that the disruption could push the UK economy into freefall, costing billions and triggering a wave of panic in global markets. Business leaders, church officials, and even celebrities are now publicly calling for the king to act before the situation turns into a catastrophe. Some newspapers have already run front-page editorials urging Charles to dissolve Parliament and force a general election. Others are calling for calm, warning that royal intervention could spark a backlash that tears the country apart. And so, Britain waits. Outside the palace gates, the crowds grow larger by the hour. Inside, Charles is reportedly preparing to make a national broadcast, the most significant royal address since the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Its contents remain a mystery. Will he call for new elections and risk being accused of overstepping his role? Will he try to broker a compromise that satisfies neither side? Or will he stay silent, allowing events to run their course and letting history judge him for what happens next? What we are witnessing right now is nothing less than the most dramatic constitutional crisis in living memory. The government has fallen, the people are united, and the monarchy stands on the edge of its greatest test since the English Civil War. Britain is no longer asking whether change is coming, it is demanding it. In the next 48 hours, King Charles must decide whether to side with the people or with the politicians. His decision could save the monarchy, or end it. The world is watching, and the next chapter of British history is about to be written.